What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards, freshly recovered from my recent surgery and doing quite well. So, while I thought I might not be able to provide a video this week, I'm actually going to be able to. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about a system that fulfills a niche that I've been looking to fill for a long time. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, you know that I've talked at length about a few different universal RPG systems. I've talked quite a bit about Cypher, and I've also talked about how I thought Dungeon Crawl Classics might be the best universal system for me. But recently, I've taken a deeper dive into the Savage World system, and I'm finding that I believe it is actually what I've been looking for all along. And before you tell me, but Justin, Savage Worlds has been around for 20 years. How could you just now be discovering how great this system is?
Oh, well, allow me to retort.
You see, before, I was trying to look at Savage Worlds as if it were a D&D type of system. And now that I've actually played it quite a bit, and I've dove into the mechanics, all of the things that I found to be clunky originally are actually rather intuitive once you get into the game a little bit deeper. So, without further ado, I'm going to tell you about what Savage Worlds is, what you need to get into it, and what makes it such a special game. The history of Savage Worlds. It's based upon the Great Rail Wars from 1997, which was also by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. The Great Rail Wars was a miniatures rule set in the Deadlands world. The same rule set was later modified to be the original Savage Worlds RPG, released in 2003 as a PDF. It was first in print back in 2005. In 2006, Pinnacle released Deadlands Reloaded. This brought back the Weird West roots to the system. In 2007, the Explorers Edition was released, notably with changes to the damage rules, and in 2011, the Deluxe Edition was released, which happened to be a hardback. This was then moved to the Explorers Edition in 2012, with a final major revision to the core rules product in 2018 with the Savage Worlds Adventures Edition, or SWADE. SWADE cleaned up the skill set list, removed charisma, and balanced some of the edges and compiled the best rules from previous editions and supplements. Whew! The edition thing is pretty confusing to a newcomer. With the lack of numbering and the subtle branding differences, hint, look for the Adventure Edition at the bottom of the logo, it is easy to get lost. I distinctly remember accidentally buying an older edition of a Rifts book because I didn't realize that it had two different editions with the same cover art even. Good news is that even the old stuff is very easily converted on the fly, as the system hasn't changed much. On top of that, Pinnacle releases conversion PDFs for their older settings for free on their website, like Lankmar, which is technically still in the older Explorer Edition release. This makes them as usable today as they were when they were first released. Main takeaway, for minimal confusion, you can always pick up strictly SWADE books. So now, on to what makes Savage Worlds the best it is at what it does. Number 1. It has a simple unifying mechanic. You roll a trait die, plus a wild die for PCs or significant NPCs, called wild cards in the parlance. Take the highest and try to hit a target number, which is usually going to be 4. If you beat the target number by 4, it's considered a raise, like a critical effect in most game systems, and you get some nice mechanical benefits to go along with that. If you roll a maximum die face, it explodes, or aces in SWADE terms, leading to some real Hail Mary scenes. Number 2. Its other mechanics are quite intuitive. Adjustments, benefits, and modifiers are almost always amounting to a +2 or -2, which makes the end result of walls of contextualizing much easier to grok. Number 3. It plays fast. With extras, i.e. most NPCs needing only 1 wound to eliminate, it doesn't fall into the D&D problem of big piles of hit points and an hour of attrition to complete battles. Even the important wild cards typically go down in 4 wounds, so it can be quite deadly. Number 4. If you watch my channel, You know that I love some chip theory games, and they are the kings of poker chips. Well, Pinnacle is a close second. They use poker chips for bennies that allow rerolls, soaking damage, removing of the shaking condition, or altering the story in other ways. They give players more agency and generally encourage more over-the-top gameplay. The poker cards are primarily used for initiative, but also drive the best random adventure system I've seen in a while. Number 5. It does it all. Official settings have been released so far for Pathfinder, Rifts, Lankmar, Deadlands, Flash Gordon, and more. Perhaps even more exciting to me, just using the core rulebook, I've been able to put my complete TMNT and Other Strangeness RPG collection to good use for my kids without teaching them the rather hard to grok Palladium system. So how do you get started in Savage Worlds? Well, this is where you're going to start. You can start with either the core rules, which have rules to create worlds in any genre, or you can get the updated Pathfinder Savage Worlds core rules. Both are going to cover most of the same material, but the Pathfinder rules have gone ahead and added some genre-specific setting rules and many of the trappings of a Pathfinder Galarian style of world. Neither one of these is a bad choice, but if you're going to stray from the fantasy roots very far, I would suggest getting the standard Savage Worlds rulebook. These both retail for around $40, and they have everything that you need to play. Literally, this book here has years of content in it. You can create characters, you can create worlds, and you can create adventures right out of the books that you have right in front of you here. Also, I should mention at this point, the PDFs are between $20 and $25, and they are all hyperlinked and quite usable at the table or on the move. If you don't want a completely do-it-yourself setting, and you like one of the many settings that are available, this is going to be a great option. Now, typically, when Pinnacle releases a big name setting, they allow you to buy a boxed version, or you can get just the setting core rules. Now, in the boxed version, they're typically going to have a custom screen, cards, and other goodies in addition to the rules. These usually run around $100, but require a purchase of the standard Savage World core rules book to go with them. That would be the Suede edition. The exception to this is, of course, the Savage Pathfinder Ultimate Core, which has a version of the core rules specifically aimed at Pathfinder, also making it excellent as a fantasy RPG substitute without the box. Now, the setting core books run about $40 each and come in the graphic novel size form factor that the core rulebook has as well. If you've already got your core rules and you've chosen a setting, another place that you can add some to your Savage Worlds game is through the currently available companion books. Now, for Suede, there are currently supers and fantasy genre companion books with more on the way. While these aren't necessary, these certainly add a lot of options and ideas for the GM and the players, and they run about $40 a piece. Just remember, you're going to be looking for the ones that say Adventure Edition on the bottom. Now, once you get past the companions, you're going to have a plethora of options available for expansions. As lines age, they get frequent releases that flesh out the worlds and offer Savage Tales adventures to keep the group engaged. For Savage Pathfinder, they have released the entire Rise of the Runelords AP in a box set and are adding Curse of the Crimson Throne soon. If you wanted to add a spatial element of minis to your game without breaking the bank, they also have a line of cardboard figure flats that are often referred to as pawns, specific to some of their settings, and there are some third parties, like Arknight, that offer similar pawns in these clear plastic options. I know that in the past, some of you have shown some interest in my toolkits that I build for myself to make the play at the table a little bit easier. So I'm going to close this video out by showing you what I've built for Savage Worlds. So this says solo kit, but this is also the version of my kit that I use whenever I run this for my kids. I start off with the character creation rules up front. As you can see, there's not a lot to them. Then I have a printout of the parts per million solo rules. And then I have printed the rules section from the core rulebook, which gives me all of the nuances and special cases that I'm going to need from game to game. I don't have to use all of them very often, but I will frequently need one of them during a session. Then I have a short printout of the different modifications that you can make with powers and spells, as well as the printout of the summaries for all the powers and spells. Then I have a section that has all of the different hindrances and edges and traits, and that comes in handy whenever you pull up an enemy that you don't know what a particular trait does. You can find out very quickly. The last bit here are actually the adventure generation rules from 3 of the setting books. This is from the Pathfinder Savage Worlds, and you draw 3 cards, one for objective, one for obstacle, and one for complication, and it generates a very interesting option for an adventure hook. Then it also has random encounter tables for all of the different environs that you might be in. Here at the end, it kind of describes what some of those results would look like. This is the same thing, but for the Deadlands setting. It has the same exact setup. And then I have the one printed out for Rifts as well. It's set up a little bit differently. It relies more on dice than cards, but very similar. But between these 3, I can create adventures on the fly for a fantasy, Old West, or sci-fi game. Then at the end, I have the various extras that I've created for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game I'm running for my kids, as well as the wild cards for that same game. And on the back are all of their stats. Conveniently, they fit in the holders for the Pathfinder pawns, so you can have them sitting at the table with everybody being able to read what they need to. And that's it. That is my take on Savage Worlds. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope that you're going to give Savage Worlds a try. And until next time, this has been Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.